Peace, love, and abundance to you all. Welcome back to Healing Our Shadows, the podcast dedicated to supporting women who have been abused or raised by narcissistic mothers. I'm Big Princess, your host, and I'm so glad you are here for today's episode. In this episode today, we're going to explore a crucial topic: understanding the traits of narcissistic mothers, the tactics that they often use, and the lasting impact they can have on their children. This is an important step in the healing journey because recognizing the patterns can help us, and yes, I said us, make sense of our experiences and begin to reclaim our power. Before we start, I want to remind you that some parts of today's episode may be triggering. If at any point in time you feel the need to pause, please do. When doing so, take a deep breath, or if you would like to, you can revisit this later. Your well-being comes first. Let's get started. Jumping right into segment 1, we're going to be speaking about the traits of a narcissistic mother. There are many common traits that narcissistic mothers share: lack of empathy, need for control, excessive criticism, projection, gaslighting. All of these behaviors are behaviors that they would naturally stem from unresolved issues, but because they haven't handled them, they then project them onto their child. We're going to go through these traits one by one. I won't take too much time on it because there is another segment that will need a bigger explanation. So, with the lack of empathy, they often struggle to understand or care about the feelings of others, even their own children. So it can be as simple as, you falling and hitting your knee and them telling you, oh, get up, you'll be okay. Or you coming and saying, and again, this is triggering information, but there's been times in our community where we have seen young girls go to their mothers and say, someone essayed me, someone abused me. And immediately there was a disdain or said, well, it was your fault why it happened. Excuse me. It was your fault why you happened. It's what you wanted to happen. The lack of empathy. And that's when they turn into that second trait we spoke about, the need for control. They may manipulate situations to maintain power over others. At all times, they have to have control over the situation. So if they are wrong or they are caught lying, very quickly and very simply, it will then be redirected to something that the child could have done. Oh, yeah, well, maybe I did break this, but you shouldn't have done this in the first place. Immediately, I'm switching the roles of the victim to whom it should not be. Our third trait would be excessive criticism or praise. They might constantly criticize you. I know that my mother was very heavy into criticizing me. Every day it was, oh, you think you're so smart because you get straight A's? Oh, you think you're so cute just because you have 2 dimples? It's kind of like, you're thinking these things. I'm not even capable of noticing what's going on with me. I'm just living. They will constantly do things like that, or they will overpraise you, but often for the benefit of them, not yours. Our fourth would be projection. They blame others for their own faults or failures. Them gaining weight was your fault. Them not being able to keep a certain job because they had you. It's all your fault. Statements like, if I would have never had you, I would have been successful. Immediate projection, which is another way to make someone feel guilty for living. And that then entitles you into being a slave to them because you feel like you owe them something. Our last would be gaslighting. They deny your feelings, your experiences to make you doubt your reality. And this is one of the most dangerous because not only does this occur in relationships with abusive partners, but with it occurring with a mother-daughter relationship, it then forces the child to believe that anything that she desires to do or believe is occurring around her isn't real. That can also force you to create multiple personalities. It's very important to remember that these behaviors aren't about you. Again, they stem from their own unresolved issues. Our second segment is going to go ahead and speak about the common tactics that they use to maintain control. So emotional manipulation, triangulation, silent treatment or explosive anger, enmeshment, specifically blurring boundaries in which you feel like you owe them or they are owed loyalty. We'll start with emotional manipulation. They might guilt trip you or make you feel responsible for their happiness. So you could, one day they could be depressed about something. You could see your mother sitting down in the kitchen. I remember it's been plenty of times. My mother would be outside. She'd just be looking so unhappy. And I'd be like, well, what's wrong? Oh, it's because I got to take care of you. And it's kind of like that makes you feel unworthy of even being alive. Am I the bane of your existence? Am I truly the reason why you're so unhappy? That catapulted me in my younger years into a depression. So much so that I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to live till past 18. There's no reason for me to. I'm causing so much pain. The second would be triangulation. They create conflict by pitting family members against each other. This is a very, 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 very largely used tactic. I've seen so many families and so many women say, well, I can't speak to one of my family members because my mom did this, or my mom used to tell me not to talk to my brother or not to talk to my sister, or even then you now become the one that's ostracized. No one speaks to you. You have no family around. You can't do anything but honestly live on your own and make your own tribe. It's a tactic to remain in control. Now, enmeshment. This is one where people sometimes don't notice it as often, but they will blur the boundaries and make you feel like you owe them loyalty, even at the expense of your well-being. For example, maybe you notice that your mother may have lied about something, and you're like, hey, you lied. The immediate response shouldn't be anything but, you're absolutely right, I'm teaching you something immoral. But not with narcissistic mothers. No, that's not something to expect. What they're going to do is make you seem like the bad person for even questioning them. And why are you not going along with me anyway? I'm your mother. So that means you'll be loyal to whatever it is that they want you to do by a fault, even if it harms you or it's teaching you something negative to carry on throughout life. Our final would be silent treatment or explosive anger. They may use these punishments when you don't meet their expectation. So it could be a simple telling your mother, I love you, and she's looking at you and rolling her eyes because maybe you didn't clean your room up when she wanted you to. Or it could be you waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to them ripping the blanket off of you because you have a fork in the sink that should have been washed last night. Placing their hands on you, calling you out your name. All of these are things and patterns that they would use, that are used, to keep someone down and under control. But recognizing these patterns is the first step to breaking free from their influence. Our third segment is entitled The Impact on You, because at the end of it all, we are the ones that are impacted. Growing up with a narcissistic mother can have a lasting impact on your self-esteem, on your relationships, and your overall mental health. There could be feelings of consistent self-doubt, guilt, difficulty setting boundaries, and a tendency to attract unhealthy relationships. And a lot of us have done that, not knowing that with that relationship with our mother created a people pleaser ideology within us. We then started to wanting to please any and everyone who would just give us an ounce of love, even if it wasn't love that a rat would want from a cat. And that, I said that properly. Y'all gonna catch that. Double back if you need to. The good news is that these effects are not permanent. With awareness, the right tools, the right tribe, you can not only heal, but you will rebuild your sense of self. So I want to actually provide a few steps that we can all take to start processing these experiences. Firstly is learning about narcissism. Educate yourself to better understand what you've been through. Learn about what a narcissist is. You don't have to study a narcissist or have one in your life currently to understand what it is. Take your time to read. Take your time to do research. Take your time to analyze where you do see those relationships in front of you if they are. The second thing I would advise is journaling your feelings. Now, writing can not only help clarify your thoughts, but also clarify your emotions. Now, I suggest that you should do your writing right when you wake up. That's when you're still living in your subconscious, or right before you go to sleep. That way is something that will be embedded into your conscious and your subconscious as you're sleeping. The third would be practicing self-compassion. And this is something that I highly, highly, highly recommend you do daily. Remind yourself that their behavior was not your fault. Because oftentimes and I know I have done this, so I'm sure that there's plenty of others, you spend so much time like, why doesn't she love me? What did I do wrong? Maybe if I make more money, she'll love me. Maybe if I make myself prettier, she'll think that I'm a good daughter. Maybe if I don't talk as much, she'll think I'm a great daughter. It has nothing to do with you, beloved. It is completely and utterly on them. It's not on you. It's in them. Always remember that. The last thing I always advise is, seek support. Now, you can go to your friends, but maybe your friends may not understand. So therapy is always an option that I will always put out there. But if it's something that you're not wanting to go do, or you maybe not have the funds to go to a therapist, because therapy can be expensive if you don't have insurance, for sure, you can join a support group, which can be very transformative. Having groups of women around who share the same experiences, who share the same unfortunate traumas, however, and I'm not stating to trauma bond, because you were trauma heal with someone who's also wanting to get on their healing journey. This podcast itself would be considered a support group. You can come here, call in, you guys can send in questions, you guys can send in topics, and we can discuss them. I am also open to taking on guests at any point in time. So use all of the avenues that you have available. And if you feel like there are no avenues available, beloved, I advise you go to Google and you type in support groups for women who have suffered abuse from narcissism. And you will be amazed at how many Google results pop up. With that being said, I am going to close out this wonderful episode with a short but sweet message. Thank you guys for joining me today again and doing this deep dive into understanding narcissistic mothers. I truly hope that this episode has given you some clarity and validation. If you found today's episode helpful, I would love for you to share it with someone who might need it. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, where we will explore how to set healthy boundaries, which is a very key step in not only reclaiming your peace, but your independence. Remember, beloved, you are not alone, and healing is always possible. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it.